Go.
Hello, I'm Linda Onilio Canole, and that middle name, my maiden name, is really Italian, but somehow when we came over here from Italy, it changed over, the spelling changed from Oneglio to O, apostrophe, capital Nelio. Celebration, I guess, of a multicultural kind of feeling. I'd like to welcome you to Miners Hall Museum. The museum was started in 2012 to celebrate the 50 immigrant cultures who immigrated here in order to mine coal. And in 1914, we were mining a third of the nation's coal. Little known fact. Also here in southeast Kansas, because the job was so hard with very little benefits. I mean, if you got hurt in a mine, which many thousands of men did, there was no workman's compensation, no insurance, no really other ways to avail yourself of a salary unless you sent your youngest son or your oldest son, age 12 years and up, into the mine to work in your place.
You know, that's a similar story on the railroad and all the immigrants that came over. There was no hope if something happened.
Exactly. There was no. So we have much in our museum that celebrates not only the families that have come over here and have settled here and have started businesses and been really involved in education.
Now, were they all Irish?
They all would like to be Irish. Unfortunately, some were Italian, German, English.
Actually, most
Eastern
of them would have
European.
been, what, Eastern European?
Yes, many Eastern Europeans. But we also had miners from the Wales. The Welsh were the best miners. They had the most, they had the skills.
Yes.
And really, the miners that were kind of recruited from Eastern Europe and different parts of Europe were generally non-skilled workers who came over here primarily because they would be cheap. That would be cheap labor. And the entrepreneur who thought of this idea was a guy by the name of Franklin Plater. He created he was a railroad man, and he wanted to get these great fields of coal over to the smelting fields that were going on over in the Missouri area, and he needed cheap labor, so he came up with these beautiful posters. They were broadsides, and it said, "Paradise on Earth, come to southeast Kansas and mine coal. Here's a job for you."
The streets are lined with gold.
The streets are lined with gold. And they would take these posters all over Europe on the ships that were going over there. They'd tack them up on all these little villages, and lo and behold, by the turn of the century, by 1900, we were already getting thousands of people coming over here to settle. And this is pretty much prairie at the time.
And did a tornado start all this?
This particular building, besides the Wizard of Oz, there is a story here in Franklin that has to do, unfortunately, with the tornado that happened in and I'm trying to think of the year right now. Oh my goodness, 2005, I believe.
No, I'm not.
And it blew away much of the town. And the townspeople, the community got together, a few very energized citizens, and built a community center. And from that, a lovely lady by the name of Phyllis Bittner started knocking on our doors and saying, "Hey, I need some help. I think we need to start something even more fabulous. Why don't we celebrate our mining history?" We had just done my play here for the 100th centennial celebration of Franklin, and the play is entitled "Army of Amazons: a history of Southeast Kansas mining." So we thought, hey, let's get all of our heads together, and many people were involved in this wonderful enterprise, and we're so glad to have any of you come down and visit us, and thank you very much.
And today I came and heard the Irish song and story, and there's 3 more programs. Now, did they have an Italian song and story?
We did have an Italian culture exhibit. Every 3 months we have a new exhibit. Our museum is constantly changing and revolving, so you will find something new here every single time. We have a program every month, like we were just talking about today. We did some wonderful Irish folklore and music, and we're going to do Ireland for this quarter. After that, we're going to we also celebrate different camps, different mining camps, the different areas. We'll be doing that. We celebrate different cultures. We do, we've done German, we've done Italian, we've done Slovenian, we've done French, and we have a cooking portion. We have music. We have have stories. So
Well, you were jammed up today. There was no room in the parking lot. Had to park on the street. There was no room in here. Everybody had to sit. And I was going to suggest you have a gigantic thing where everybody has a little table representing their culture, but there's no room.
thank you.
We could take it outside.
That's right. And please come next week to our wine walk. We are a open museum 6 days a week, all volunteer from 10 to 4. So it would be great if we have fundraisers. If you could come down next Friday, we're doing a wine walk over here at the Franklin Park and a camp talk where we're doing some narratives and some drama here around the museum. And we're always looking for ways to increase our membership and to find ways to really build our museum into even a better place. So thank you very much.
Great. I appreciate the time, and we'll be back next week. I'm going to see all 4 of them. I am.
I'm so excited.
This is so nice to find. It's like a jewel. I found it, and nobody knows it's here. So thank you very much.
And thank you very much.
We've got another treat here today. It's another of our series of interviews at the Miners Hall Museum and down in Franklin, Kansas, southeast Kansas. And a lot of people aren't aware of it. And I saw there's just a few people I had to interview. Now, if you could introduce yourself and tell us what this is all about here, this Irish series of Irish talks and exhibits and songs. Explain it to us.
Hello, I'm Kathleen Brown-Sikora for Pittsburgh, Kansas, and I'm here at the Miners Hall in Franklin, Kansas, founded to exhibit the history of coal mining and all the ethnic groups that came to southeast Kansas, primarily to work in the coal mines, but also for other occupations. So myself, I have some Irish in me. My mother's family was Sullivan from County Cork. Her father.
My grandmother was Sullivan, too. From
yes,
Cork.
From Cork, yes. A lot of good people came from there.
That's right.
And so ever since I've grown up, my mom's been proud of her Irish heritage. And she came, my grandpa came to Pittsburgh, actually first from Frankfort, Kentucky, where his parents settled after they immigrated to the States, then to Atchison, Kansas, and then he came here to Pittsburgh working on the railroad, the Kansas City Southern Railroad. He was a lineman. And I've always known we had Irish in us and enjoyed some Irish poetry and stories that I encountered through the years. But it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I began to really get involved and immersed in Irish music and poetry and so many of the tales of Ireland.
What Irish songs were passed down to you or that you recognize?
Well, actually, from my mom, more Danny Boy and things of that nature. I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen.
Yes.
Yes.
Your name being Kathleen.
That's right. When I was in 6th grade, we had a new priest come to our church in Pittsburgh, Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Church and school. He came in and had all of his children introduce ourselves. When I told him my name was Kathleen Brown, he said, and would you be knowing the song, I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen? And I said, no, Father, I don't. He said, and would you be playing the piano? And I said, yes, I take lessons. He said, you go home, and in 2 weeks' time, you'll have learned it from your teacher, and you'll sing it for me here. So, sure enough, 2 weeks later, I sang it in front of the class. And that was, I guess, the beginning of my love affair with Irish music.
Any Gaelic or Irish language words passed down to you?
No, none at all.
Yeah, it's seldom
None at all.
was done. Usually it was, we're in America now, let's try to succeed and not become
That's right.
a small group here.
Yes.
What other names, Irish names, were in your family history?
Oh, my. We were related to half the cemetery in Atchison when we went there for a family reunion several years ago. Atchison, Kansas again.
I went to school up there at St. Benedict's.
Oh, it's St. Benedict's, yes.
Benedictine now. It's all
That's
changing.
right,
Yeah.
yes. But the Delaney's, the Haverdys, the Haggertys, the Hannashys, of course, the Sullivans. Oh, my. Let's see, there were others, I think, that
I know.
have escaped me now.
You can't get them all down, but any stories passed down from Ireland?
No, actually not.
Yes, yes.
And my mom didn't know much about her Irish grandparents. My grandpa was the youngest in a family of, I think, 8 children. And so his parents had died before my mother was born.
Yes. How about what families were here the earliest that were Irish?
Oh, the Irish. Well, there were some Monaghan's, there were Delaney's, the Keegans, and Houlihan's.
And they come mainly for work, you think?
Yes, in the coal
Yes.
mines primarily.
And they had experience in the past?
Yes, so many of them had gone first to Scotland,
Yes.
or maybe to Wales or England to work in coal mines, and then came here because this seemed a better economic opportunity.
And about what year was that, or
That,
years?
that would have been probably 1880s, something like that.
Yes.
Although there were a lot of Irish that came to the United States and to Kansas in the 1860s during the
Yes.
Civil War era. And of course, there were many Irish brigades.
Oh, yeah, the
Nationwide.
Civil War, and they might be joining up on either side. You never know.
Right. Although I do think most of the Irish that I've read about did join with Union forces, primarily because they felt enslaved by Britain and did not want to inflict that on
That's
anyone
right.
else.
They recognized themselves being a minority in Ireland,
Yes.
so to
yes.
speak. What else do you think? What does it mean to be Irish? Are there behaviors? Are there foods? What is it? What's the secret?
Oh, the secret is humor and love each other and enjoy life and pray.
Yes, yes.
Most of the Irish that came to this area were from the southern part of Ireland, and so they were Catholic. And many of our churches here in this area, in Cherokee County and Crawford County, Kansas, have been founded by Irish and have Irish names. St. Bridget's Church
Yes.
in Scammon, Kansas. There are several St. Patrick's churches in the area in different towns.
And what do you think that, I do some of the reading here and look at things, and in the bigger cities, the Irish migrated to in masses, and they're like the biggest immigrant family, say, after 1860, 1870. Here it's different. You have more of an equal mixture between a lot of different ethnics.
Yes.
Do you think that makes a difference?
I think so. Naturally, when they first came, it's human nature to look for your own kind, you might say. You're more comfortable,
Yes.
whether it's the language, the cultural habits, and so on. And so the Irish maybe had their own neighborhoods and social clubs, just as the Slovenians did, and the Germans and the Italians.
Yes.
And the Belgium and the French. All those people came to southeast Kansas because of the coal mines and the railroad hub. So I think getting back to your question about the habits of the Irish, I think it's, as I said, the love of words,
Yes.
literature, and poetry. It seems like all the Irish people I've met, whether they're first generation or straight from Ireland, or like myself, fourth generation, still have that deep, abiding love of literature and the ability to use language and to depict. Even their writing is like a painting.
Yes, I once
Such
saw
imagery.
I once saw one of my ancestors described. She was Marnie Dew, related to Daniel O'Connell, but they said she was the master of caustic invective.
Ah, yes.
And
There
I knew
you go.
exactly what it meant, even,
Oh.
even though I don't know how I knew it. But they have a way. They have a way with poetry and words.
Oh, yes.
It's a special part of the brain that gets developed, I think.
I think so.
Maybe
I
because
think
they
so.
couldn't do anything else for several generations.
Yeah, and that is something my mother passed down to me. She loved poetry, and she knew so many poems by heart. Not necessarily Irish poems, but
Yes.
any poetry. And actually, my dad did too, good German man that he was.
Well, now, how did you get involved with the Miners Hall Museum here in these programs?
Well, I've known the people that have formed the Miners Hall Museum and have been up here many times to other programs, admiring things. I'm active in different music groups here in the past, theatrical groups, our church choir, and so on. And so I was asked by some of the board members if I'd be willing to co-host the programs and the organization of the exhibit of Irish artifacts and history here in the museum. And so Maeve Cummings, who came to Kansas from Ireland, I believe about 40 years ago, she and I have co-hosted this.
And is it surprising how many people turned out? Does this surprise people?
Yes. According to the museum board members, we've set a record of attendance.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Yeah, especially for the Irish music one that
Yes.
we presented 4 weeks ago with Dennis Kavanagh, who is Irish and lived here in the States since
Yes.
he was a little boy. And several of us presented Irish music, and we do the folk music of Ireland as opposed to music of Irish immigrants.
Yeah, immigrants and Tin Pan Alley.
Tin Pan Alley,
that sort
George
of
M.
thing.
Cohen, for
Yes,
instance.
yes.
Yeah.
Of course, and he was very Irish American.
very much
Born
so.
on the 4th of July.
That's right, Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought, boy, this is, for a 4-part series in a smaller area like this, they'd be lucky to get that up in a big city.
Oh, well.
To show up at times,
Well, people love to hear stories.
Yes.
No matter what ethnicity or hodgepodge we are, we all love stories.
And
And, the
it's-
Irish
yeah.
have no lack of good stories.
And it's surprising how similar they are all across the United States. The cultural background, and what they know, and what what's become part of the culture.
Yes, right.
Do you have any other comments on your family or the Irish in this area?
Oh, just how much the more I learn about Ireland and the Irish immigrants and their descendants, the more fascinating it is. It's like a well that has no bottom and just layers and layers.
What have you grown? What was the staple food you ate when you were growing up?
Oh, me?
Yeah.
Oh, meat and potatoes.
Yeah. Meat, potatoes.
And
I
some
remember
boiled vegetables.
I went up to my grandfather's place when I was a boy, and he'd turn around. He says, "Oh, you want a tater?" He'd turn on the gas oven and throw a tater in the pot.
Right.
And I thought, well, isn't that something? Then I go to Ireland, and I'm visiting with somebody I didn't know, and he said, turned around and did the same thing. "You want a tater?" and throws it on the gas stove. I go, boy, I'm at home.
Yes. One thing that when I was teaching school, I came across an activity about origin of words from different languages.
Yes.
And found a whole list of words from the Gaelic that we use today. Trousers, for instance, gabardine,
Shanty.
shanty, whiskey.
Lace curtain.
Yes, the lace curtain Irish, yes, and so on. And it was fascinating to me. So I had known about a lot of the Latin root words and their origins,
Yes.
but suddenly I had a whole new field of word history research to
Well,
do.
then how do you pronounce your C's, since the Irish alphabet didn't have a C?
Exactly.
Is it Celtic or Celtic?
Yeah, yeah, we say Celtic.
That's the way we always said
Yeah.
it too. Okay, anything else?
Well, I'm just thanking you for coming from
Oh.
Kansas City here to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we'll be
Franklin, Kansas.
Yeah, we'll be here.
Yeah.
We'll be here next time too to wrap it up.
Good.
That'll be fun.
It will be fun, and we're going to have some good Irish food here too.
Oh, good. That'll be fun. Maybe get some more Irish music for the celebration.
Yes, Maeve Cummings is going to sing.
Oh,
and,
good.
Tell stories about Irish immigration, punctuated with songs.
Now, can she sing in Irish?
I don't know. I imagine since she
I
grew
might
up
join
there.
her in a song in Irish.
Yeah.
I can't. There's not very many around that have learned the Irish for song, so
Right.
that'd be fun. You might
Yeah.
warn her ahead of time.
I will.
I'll be
I will.
asking her favor.
Yes.
And I come up here all the time with Molly. There she is, perfectly prepared. And she's done a real good job of keeping things in control here, and spoke up at the last session with some questions that I had in my mind too. That's right. That's right. Uncovered finally.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank
Yeah.
you very much. We've really appreciated this, and we're glad we heard about it. And this will be on. We'll get it up on one of our videos and wake some people up to what the history is in Southeast Kansas.
We're just a hidden gem. We're like a diamond in the rough.
That's it.
Which is from coal.
And that's where all the Irish have been, I tell you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, my name's Dennis Kavanagh. I came from Ireland as a boy to the States from Ireland. When I came, we came to America through a local priest, Father Michael Blackledge, who was in the Wichita Diocese, and there were people wanting children, and we were in an orphanage. I was in an orphanage with lots of other kids as well, but came to America. I had two cousins who were adopted. My best friend Tommy Murray came from Ireland as well, and landed into an Irish Lebanese family, and I ended up to Irish Catholic and Scots-Irish Protestant family, mixed marriage as used to call it.
Yes.
No, but it was we're in America, and all that was way past arguing about, much more forward thinking. But always went to school. There were 4 kids from Ireland in my class at the Catholic high school and grade school here in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and we had always had Irish priests and nuns, and they were just wonderful people. They not only taught us about American history and American music, but also Irish music, and kept us in touch with our culture.
Is that where you got some of the songs you
Yes.
put on tonight?
Yes, Sister Mary Patrick and Father Mulvihill, Dan Mulvihill, God bless them, they both passed away, but they were just wonderful people, and they came to come to our house and have dinner and play music and talk and stories. It's just wonderful times as a kid growing up listening to different stories, and so always had an ear for the music and the stories. So that's sort of where it started, and I've done it, been back and forth to Ireland several times since I was a
What
kid.
part of Ireland was it you think you came from?
Oh, I came from Dublin.
Okay.
I was actually born in the Rotunda Hospital there in Dublin, which is the largest maternity hospital in Europe at one time. But
How do you find if you had to describe the Irish American or Irish community here in Franklin, what would you use to describe it?
well, Southeast Kansas is a mix of all different cultures. I came on my block growing up in Pittsburgh, Kansas. My cousin lived across the alley from me, so there's 2 Irish kids. On the corner was David Holbert. He was a full-blooded Sac and Fox Indian. And Rosie Galindo, whose parents had come from Mexico, lived on the other corner. And Teresa Habian, whose family got out of out behind the Iron Curtain in '56 during the Hungarian Revolution. They lived down the street. The Polopics, Italian and Polish, they lived a couple of blocks over. There was a little Jewish couple. They were wonderful people. Their last name was Rutzer, the German Jewish people, and had thick accents and wonderful people. So really a melting pot, as they say, or a quilt of cultures and nationalities around. And we all sort of grew up together, playing. And just, it was sort of great to be in America.
Well, if I was always curious about things like this, but if you compare a more rural community like this compared to like Kansas City or even Topeka, do you feel a difference between the folks?
Well, I grew up in Pittsburgh, Kansas, just down the road, and I lived in Kansas City for about 10 years, so I've got a mix of both. Of course, in the city, you've got more people of different cultures can get together, like the Hibernians there in Kansas City, Missouri, and Kansas. So we didn't have that kind of connection as a group to meet on a regular basis, but my friend Tommy Murray was a great Irish tenor and just a wonderful fella. He passed away a couple of years ago, but he was just a wonderful guy. He lived in El Dorado, Kansas, where his career took him, and but we all stayed in touch. It's real strange. We got into the music probably in a serious way in high school, while everybody else was doing certain things. We sort of drifted toward the folk music scene or whatever,
Yes.
and really loved that music.
Did you do anything in the Irish?
In the Gaelic?
Yes.
Oh, no. I know a few Gaelic words or a few sentences, sayings and things, but no, I'm not fluent at all.
How did this show tonight come about here
Well,
in
they're-
Miners Hall?
Yeah, well, they were trying to get together all the different ethnic groups down here, because this really is they call this part of Kansas the Little Balkans, due to all the immigrants that came over to work the deep shaft mining, coal in the southeast Kansas area. And the coal was actually then shipped over into the Joplin, Missouri area, where they turned a lot of the lead into bullets to fight the First World War. So it's a strange thing about all these immigrants coming over, digging the coal and working in the different mines, different coal companies. So you get a sense of more ethnic pride or whatever in each group. There's a large Italian community, wonderful people that keep the traditions alive. I just went to a funeral last week of a lady who was in her 90s, who was Lebanese, and the Lebanese people were a large group, came in and worked both in the Joplin area and the Pittsburgh area in the produce business. And my friend Tommy Murray, his dad was Pete Murray, because they Americanized his name when his parents came over. Pete's parents came over in like 1903 or 4. His name was Boutros Murrab, but they said, you'll be better off if you're Pete Murray. So that's what his parents, they changed their name to Murray.
And that was from what name? Boutros?
Boutros is Peter, and Murrab was the Lebanese name. They were north of Beirut. They were Lebanese Christians, and they got out. Of course, the Turks were in charge of everything there, and there was a lot of discrimination against them, and lots of horrible things going on, is still going on today. But they were able to get out and get away from it. So, but Pete Murray had a grocery store, and I worked in the grocery store for him, and he was a wonderful man. I always said you're too Irish, Pete, because he told wonderful stories, and oh my gosh, he had a great memory for stories about everyone, and wonderful man. Wonderful man.
How did the band actually come together? You said that one was the Scots and the other was no Irish, maybe.
Yeah, but we started out playing. Kathleen, there's some real trained musicians. I'm not one of them, but real trained music teachers. All of us, ironically, are in the teaching profession at one time or another, and we're all sort of semi-retired. And now, but we played years ago. We were with a group that was sort of connected to International Paper Company, some workers there. And we started out, I worked there for International Paper, and we worked together and went around, played on Sundays, like all the different nursing homes, and played American music and folk music and some Irish music mixed together. And then we had an opportunity. They wanted an all-Irish program for some event, so we ended up getting together and playing, and played 2 or 3 years together. Then I moved away, and different people had different things going on, and we just sort of got together here when they asked about putting a program on about the different people from Europe that settled in this part of the country. So that's how we all got together and practiced a couple times and put the program together today.
Most of those songs, were those ones you sort of selected, or did you all pick them up?
Well, we sort of all just went through, and we had a list of songs we wanted to do. We wanted to mix it up, especially the ones about the tunes that were actually Irish tunes. But then, as the immigrants brought them over, they changed the lyrics and Americanized them. Like Sweet Betsy from Pike being the Bard of Armagh in Ireland, and a lot of different tunes were brought over.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate it. Are you coming in any of the others? They got several more coming on with just about the Irish.
Yes, they have several different programs. A good friend of mine as a boy was Patrick Horgan, who came to America in the early 20s. He was involved in the independence movement, and in the early 20s when the IRA split with the Free Staters, it was a bloody, horrible. Families split apart. Any kind of a civil war is that way, and he literally had to sneak out of the country on a cattle boat to England, and he had a sister who was a nun at the hospital in Mount Carmel in Pittsburgh, and an uncle who was a sergeant major in the British Army who got him to London and got him squared away with the travel so he could come to America. And he was a wonderful man, and there's going to be a story about him from his daughter, Patty Horgan, and that's coming up. That's one of the programs. And he was a wonderful man, and so we're blessed to have sort of mentors to make sure you're still Irish, kind of a thing.
Well, I'll be coming back for the rest of the year.
Oh, yes.
This is pretty interesting.
Yes,
It's got
it is.
A real feel to it. And,
Yes.
I thank you very much. And your name again was?
Yes, it's Dennis Kavanagh.
Dennis Kavanagh.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you very much, Dennis.
Thank you.
Go.
My name is Maeve Cummings, and 40 years ago I came here to go to school, and I enjoyed it so much that I stayed on and got several more degrees, and then got a job at the university. And there are a lot of people in this area with Irish ancestry, and compared to the condition of the people who came over here, they're doing extremely well, because most of the immigrants, the Irish included, who came to this area came to work in the coal mines. And these were not the people who came from the educated and moneyed classes. They were very poor, they were seeking a new life. You hear a lot at the moment about economic migrants as though these are just greedy people, but economic often means feeding your children or not feeding your children. And so very many of those immigrants were in that situation. And we have parallels today where many people are trying to get into the United States. And I think Irish history will show, or Irish American history will show, that the rewards of immigration are not seen in the wave of immigrants. They're seen in their children and grandchildren, who have a huge impact on every aspect of American society.
How do you find the Southeast Kansas Irish community today? Is it close-knit, or is it a little different than in the cities, the big cities?
Oh, I think so. I think that's always true of small towns. Everyone knows everybody here, and an awful lot of people have Irish connections, and there is no trouble filling up this large venue for the 4 presentations that we had. And I think that's proof.
Oh, I do too. I was very surprised, very pleasantly surprised coming down from Kansas City.
You came from Kansas City,
yes,
okay.
I thought this was great. And, usually the older folks, you'll have some of them at events up there, but I noticed that there's not even enough room for all the kids.
No, which, is awfully nice. Yeah, makes it all worthwhile.
Yes, it's very good. Any other comments about how you found the community when you got here?
Well, for me, this was sort of the promised land. I came to get an education, which I got, and this country gave me opportunities that I wouldn't have had anywhere else.
But did anything surprise you? It wasn't what you thought?
Well, yes, you get very varied views of the United States, because we get our image of the U.S. from movies, cowboy movies, and you sort of get the impression that everybody kills everybody in cities, and it's different. They do strange things, like they bring their groceries home in paper sacks instead of bringing shopping baskets. A lot of little things like that.
Well, and where did you just get back from? You mentioned that you're giving this presentation here in Franklin today, but you just got back from a stint
from Paraguay.
Paraguay.
Yeah, PSU, Pittsburgh State University, has a relationship with a university in Asunción in Paraguay, and we exchange students and professors. And I went down there to teach them about computing, about Excel actually.
Well, you made a very good presentation here today. You covered a lot of history in a short amount of time, and you were wise enough to know just when to end it, too.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
That's a very rare talent, I'm telling you. Any other thing you'd like to say before we sign off? This will be going out on YouTube and on my webpage, and
okay.
I'll be doing a series of 3 or 4 of them, and just to introduce to Southeast
I
Kansas.
just want to say thank you to this country.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.